Hey guys, it's the Ghost of the Most Alley, back with my co-host Ryan Secrets, and welcome to Twisted Tales.
For today's video, we have two stories for you. One of them is going to be an urban legend and one of them is going to be a creepypasta. And both of these just happen to pique our interest.
One of them does have a little secret attached to it, so stick around to the end of the video to find out what that is. This creepypasta scared me so much the first time I heard it because I would walk really late at night back to my car by myself after my night classes in college. And I would be looking over my shoulder constantly because I was so scared from this creepypasta, and this would be the Smiling Man. About 5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the US. I've always been a night person, so I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went to sleep. To pass the time, I used to go for long walks and spend the time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night. I never once had a reason to feel afraid. I would always joke with my roommate that even the drug dealers in the city were polite. But all of that changed in just a few minutes of one evening. It was on a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning. I was walking near a police-patrolled park quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weekend, with very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as was most nights, was completely empty. I turned down a short side street in order to loop back to my apartment when I first noticed him. At the far end of the street on my side was a silhouette of a man dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to a waltz. But he finished each box with an odd stride forward. I guess you could say he was dance walking, headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him the majority of the sidewalk to pass me by. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was very tall and lanky, and wearing an old suit. He danced closer still, until I could make out his face. His eyes were open wide and wild, tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth was formed in a painfully wide cartoon of a smile. Between his eyes and smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off him to cross the empty street. As I reached the other side, I glanced back, and stopped dead in my tracks. He had stopped dancing and was standing with one foot on the street, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me but still looking skyward, smile still wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again, but kept my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I had put about a block and a half between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and sidewalk ahead of me were completely empty. Still unnerved, I looked back to where he had been standing to find him gone. For the briefest of moments, I felt relieved until I noticed him. He had crossed the street and was now slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure due to the distance and the shadows, but I was certain he was facing me. I looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he had moved fast. I was so shocked that I stood there for some time staring at him, and then he started moving toward me again. He took giant, exaggerated, tiptoed steps as if he were a cartoon character sneaking up on someone, except he was moving very, very quickly. I'd like to say at this point I ran away or pulled out my pepper spray or cell phone or anything at all, but I didn't. I just stood there, completely frozen, as the Smiling Man crept towards me. And then he stopped again, about a car length away from me, still smiling his smile, still looking to the sky. Then I finally found my voice. I blurted out the first thing that came to my mind. What I meant to ask was, "What do you want?" in an angry, commanding tone. What came out was a whimper. Oh, what? Regardless of whether or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it. I heard it in my own voice. That only made me more afraid. But he didn't react to it at all. He just stood there, smiling. And then, after what felt like forever, he turned around, very slowly, and started dance walking away, just like that. Not wanting to turn my back to him again, I just watched him go, until he was far enough away to almost be out of my sight, and then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way, and this time he was running. I ran until I was off the side road and back onto a better lit road with sparse traffic. Looking behind me then, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see his stupid smile, but he was never there. I lived in that city for 6 months after that night, and I never went out for another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk. He didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane. And that's a very, very scary thing to see. I hope you guys liked that creepypasta. I know the first time I heard it, I was terrified. And Ryan here walks everywhere. So enjoy that.
I'm fucking scared to my bones right now.
The next is going to be the urban legend, so enjoy.
So, I didn't want to be basic and do another urban legend like I did last time because everyone knows Bloody Mary. So I decided to search and creep to the bottoms of the web to find this specific one. Ojai is an odd place. It's a mix of rural country wisdom from longtime residents and the glitz and glamour of Hollywood from the vacationing movie stars. Like most such places, Ojai has a unique culture all its own and more than a few legends and myths. One of the spookiest stories told around the Ojai campfires is that of the Char Man. Of course, there's usually a grain of truth to every story. In the case of the Char Man, most people would probably prefer that not to be the case. He's downright creepy. He's grotesque. Even a little dangerous. This is one of those stories that is repeated so often that it almost can't help but be real. The people of Ojai would certainly say it's real. They'll swear up and down that the Char Man is out there. Ojai, California is a hot valley in one of the driest parts of the state. Scrub brush is everywhere, and long story short, it's prone to wildfires. One such fire in 1948 was particularly large and burned a large portion of the valley. Due to the isolation of Ojai, California and the limitations of the times, some families had to wait for days for the authorities to come offer aid and assistance. In the hills to the south of Ojai proper, there was an isolated cabin. A man lived there with his son, and they mostly kept to themselves. Perhaps the people of Ojai, California forgot about them. That was a very bad mistake. The cabin was directly in the path of the fire. Their house consumed by the flames. The father was burned to death. The son survived, but barely. He was practically unrecognizable as a human being. A smoking wreck of a man, burned all over. It's amazing he lived. He did survive, though the pain must have been unimaginable. As sometimes happens in such terrible circumstances, his mind snapped. Nobody knows quite what happened. When the police and firemen arrived days after the fire, they found a gruesome scene. The father had been filleted. His skin was removed from his body, peeled off like he was a piece of fruit. The man's body was hanging from a nearby tree. He was quite dead. Drawing their guns, the police immediately fanned out to search for the perpetrator. It didn't take long. Hearing an inhuman, labored wheezing from a nearby bush that had escaped the flames, the officers converged. Suddenly, something bolted out. It was the son. A mass of charred flesh, somehow, impossibly still able to move. Gagging at the smell, the officers lost their conviction, and the son escaped. He ran into the hills, and that's the last time anyone saw him up close. He had become the Char Man of Ojai, California, nothing short of a monster. People say the Char Man is still out there. He must be ancient now, but it seems his insane rage has given the strength and life beyond the mortal. Or perhaps he really did die in that fire so many years ago. Maybe what we know as the Char Man is a ghost or a specter, reenacting the horrific circumstances of its death. So what does this tormented soul do in modern day Ojai, California, you ask? It seems he wants more skins. Human skins. Skin to replace his own, perhaps. The Char Man most frequently lurks around the very rural Creek Road. There's a campground in the area known as Camp Comfort, which has gained something of a reputation for its hauntings. The Char Man has been known to stalk the camp at night, not quite brave enough to enter the tents. Certainly brave enough to go after an unsuspecting party of hikers, though. Watch out. He's crafty and picks his targets carefully. He shies away from large groups and moving cars, but he's not shy about approaching if he thinks he can take you. Harassing stopped cars is a favorite pastime of his. He loves nothing more than finding a few unlucky travelers stuck on the side of the road. Helpless, stranded, their skin ripped for the reaping. The Char Man will leap right onto the car, pounding and scratching and trying to get in. Some daredevils like to exploit his activities. Drive out, way out, after dark. Stop on the side of the road and turn off the car. Turn off the lights too, if you dare. And then just wait. The Char Man, so locals say, will come after time. It will be sudden and shocking. Be ready to start the car back up and make your escape. You better hope the engine doesn't stall. That's what the Char Man is counting on. Explore the trails and roads of Ojai, California late at night, particularly around Creek Road, and he just might make an appearance. He's fast, so be ready. You hear the crackling at the first brush. The Char Man isn't particularly stealthy and has ranked stomping throughout the undergrowth. Some have reported moans and groans as branches and thorns scrape against his sensitive skin. Others say he's as silent as the grave, and the sounds of his passage can easily be mistaken for those of an animal. That might be the last mistake you ever made. When he emerges, they say, you'll know it beyond the shadow of a doubt, charging straight at you in the open. His face a collection of open sores and his skin gruesomely burned beyond all recognition. It's likely you'll break and run at sight. He howls and shrieks, ranting and raving about all the horrible things he'll do to you when he gets you. He can't be reasoned with. Though, some have tried, and if he does catch you, well, let's just say you won't return to tell the tale. He's nothing but pure hate and rage anymore.
I've actually never heard that urban legend before today, and it really creeped me out.
The reason why I specifically picked out this one is because it's only to California. It's like our own personal urban legend. And since it's in California, I actually did some research, and it's only a couple miles north of LA. So,
which is really close to us. So,
we're gonna make a little trip out there very, very soon and see if the Char Man wants to come out and play for the camera.
So keep an eye out. And as always, a special shout out to our cameraman, my boyfriend, CJ.
His link will always be down in the description for you guys to go and see how goofy we fucking act in real life.
On his channel.
Yeah, because he vlogs. Yes, right? We love vlogs.
we love vlogs.
Alright.
Bye. Hey guys, so I was editing and our outro just disappeared. So as always, thanks for watching. Comment down below if you want us to go to a haunted location somewhere close to us. Southern California areas would be nice. And we'll see you next Wednesday with a brand new video. Thanks guys. Bye. Blink.